To the entrance. Don't let him see you. Wait for my command. Oh, bravo! What an impressive display. A pity you could not let your father live to see it. As for your mother, once I've dealt with you, I promise I'll give her my full attention.
Ezio Auditor. Brave of you to stand alone against me, but also quite foolish. Assassin.
Must determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves. Our cruel and unrelenting enemy leaves us only the choice of brave resistance or the most abject submission. We have, therefore, to resolve to conquer or die.
Watch them fight and die in the name of freedom. They speak of liberty and justice, but for who?
Ready!
deep in the ocean, dead and cast away, where innocence is burned in flames. A million miles from home, I'm walking ahead, I'm frozen to the bones. I am a soldier on my own, I don't know the way. I'm riding up the heights, all shame. I'm waiting for the call, the hand on the chest. I'm ready for the fight and fate. Iron shots stuck in my head. The thunder of the drums dictates the rhythm of the falls, the number of days, the rising of the horns ahead. From the dawn of time to the end of days, I will have to run away. I want to feel the pain and the bitter taste of the blood on my lips again. Of snow is burning my hands, I'm frozen to the bones. I am a million miles from home, I'm walking away. I can't remind your eyes, your face.
Beard's honest opinion. You ask me, can this new captain promise you a life of prizes, plunder, and adventure? Aye.
For amongst all the gentlemen of fortune sailing these West Indies, he ranks amongst the most clever. There was a time when I thought myself the deadliest scourge of these seas. But this man is a fearsome dog that feeds off trouble and turmoil. I seen him clear the deck of a Spanish galleon like it were nothing. Fighting like a devil, dressed as a man. And he's a canny one. Knows his way round every crag and crevice of these islands. So if it's fortune and adventure you seek, then Captain Edward Kenway's your man. Only, don't meddle in his private affairs. For there's more mystery to that man than even I dare ask.
Rated M for mature. Have you ever been disrespected? Forced to follow orders? Would you rather break free and live by the creed of a pirate? Are you ready to fight for the freedom to do whatever you want? Driven by reckless desire. Calling the ruthless, fearless masses. Willing to pledge allegiance to no one. Calling all who are ready to unite under the black flag.
France's wounds may be healing, but mine only fester. I can hide here and forget. Is this who we killed for? Or was it all for someone else? Again. Fate brought me here for a reason. Perhaps it's time I let go of the past and took a leap of faith.
Hi, my name is Sylvain Trottier, Associate Producer on Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Today, we're going to give you a closer look at the technical advancements behind the most immersive Assassin's Creed yet. Our C engine is composed of many different technologies working together. We use physically based equations to simulate the movement and realistic behavior of the waves. A complex shader recreates the multiple optical behaviors that gives the ocean its rich and moving colors. These technologies work together to create the most realistic virtual ocean you've ever seen. Our fully dynamic weather engine can make you feel the unique atmosphere of the Caribbean thanks to many different innovations. Rain is composed of thousands of individual raindrops, each one a particle that is independently lit. We use compute shaders to create dynamic ripples and puddles that react to the intensity and direction of the wind. We also use an innovative screen space reflection technology that accurately mirrors the world on reflective surfaces. Increased processing power allows us to use physically based volumetric fog that is computed in real time and that is also lit by multiple light sources. All of these effects work together to create unpredictable and breathtaking weather scenarios. Our global illumination technology has been rebuilt from the ground up. The light now bounces around the scene, its color changing based on the properties of the reflecting materials. During production, we are able to bake thousands of light probes in a few minutes using the power of modern GPUs. This cutting-edge lighting technology adds realism and immersion to every scene in AC4 Black Flag. Another genuine breakthrough is our dynamic boarding system. The Anvil Next engine can now take two separate animated objects, in this case two ships, and build a unique dynamic nav mesh with them. This nav mesh transforms the ships from objects to a 3D map that can be navigated by the player and NPCs. This tech made it possible for us to create a completely seamless and fluid gameplay experience. Having more power also means having much more foliage and vegetation on screen. 3D foliage tech allows us to create rich natural settings with thousands of plants. We made the foliage fully dynamic so that it accurately reacts to the weather and the player interaction. This tech not only improves immersion, but also the stealth gameplay, as you can now see where you are hiding simply from the movement of the leaves. These are just a few examples of what makes our Caribbean open world so captivating and lifelike. We can't wait for you to experience it when Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag launches this fall.
the back of the church, feeling water on your brow. With its healing, it hurts at first, a sharpish pain that returns as a thought that the needle in your skin won't bring you closer to God. And I watch as your head turns full circle. So watch as your head turns full circle. Typical, you look so deceiving. The sparks are always fire, cause you drink for relief. With the heart of a child and the wit of a fool, it's a wonder why I don't try to build a wall around you. And I watch as your head turns full circle. Yeah, watch as your head turns full circle.
This morning, I was just a drop. A single drop that soon became a river. In this river, hope was born. From this hope rose a raging flood, a tidal wave of change. And if anyone stands against that tide, tonight we will become a revolution.
Paris, 1789. The people starve in the squalid streets. The country is besieged by economic decay. The poverty and hunger are relentless. Meanwhile, aristocrats squander the wealth of the nation. King Louis XVI, the fool, ignores his desperate subjects, while his queen would have them eat cake. On July 14th, 1789, the people decide they have had enough. They rise up and storm the Bastille, arming themselves and showing no mercy to the aristocrats who oppress them. But what does this revolution achieve? Freedom? Peace? Equality? Revolution is about power. On August 10th, 1792, revolutionaries march on the Tuileries in an attempt to capture the king, while powerful forces manipulate events from the shadows. They eventually capture and behead the king. Then, the guillotine is turned on tens of thousands of Parisians. To secure their control, these men instigate a year-long reign of terror. Who can unmask the hidden enemy? Who will fight and kill for liberty?
Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. Even while we sleep, we will find you acting on your best behavior. Turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants to rule the world. Help me to decide. Help me make the most of freedom and of pleasure. Nothing ever lasts forever. Everybody
Poor France is ill, and our city is a wound, inflamed by all efforts to heal her. A king once ruled, headstrong and corrupt. Now headless and a corpse, murdered by men just as vile. Today, fanatics from all sides spill blood on every corner. 1,000 terrors I mean to cure, day by day, street by street, Templar by Templar.
Hello, my name is Alex Amancio, and I'm the creative director of Assassin's Creed Unity. Welcome to the streets of Paris, the most beautiful city in the world, in the throes of a bloody revolution. Atop de Notre Dame, our hero, Arnaud, surveys the scene. Let's make our way down using controlled descent, one of the new additions to navigation in ACU. We have completely overhauled navigation, allowing you to plan and execute exactly where you want to go. Essentially, you don't have to look for a haystack to get to street level anymore. This massive crowd is gathered in front of Notre Dame because clergy is being dragged out. Players can choose whether they want to get involved or not, save the clergy, which will attract attention, or let them be murdered and stay hidden. The choice is yours.
I think the guards can handle these rogues. My target may be on the move.
As you can see, the city is completely alive, with inhabitants going about their business, getting robbed, or investigating curious events. You will need to learn how to read the crowd in order to get a read on possible gameplay activities. For example, the crowd looking inside the building is curious about a recent murder. This is a cue for one of our murder mystery missions. Let's take a look inside the building, seamlessly, for the first time ever.
Bear up, madame. I will return to see justice done.
We'll add this mission to our quest log and keep moving towards our target. Remember, Paris is in the midst of a revolution, and systemic fights can break out at any moment. As you can see, the people are taking the fight to the aggressors, the enemy faction in ACU.
Here's the spot. If I'm not too late, I'll catch Captain Xavier at his dinner.
Our target is in a social club, one of the new types of locations in ACU. We'll need to make our way inside. Let's use a direct approach. Combat is much more challenging in ACU, and players will have to make good use of their wit, tools, and new combat moves. Among these, you will see the parry, dodge, tackle, and heavy attack. Before entering the building, let's use Eagle Pulse to plan our approach and see what's waiting for us inside. You can enter many buildings in Paris, which makes for countless new gameplay situations.
The machine, you mean?
Let's switch to stealth mode and try a non-lethal approach.
You skittish.
For the first time in Assassin's Creed, we have a dedicated stealth mode, triggered at the press of a button.
If the Jacobins don't act quick, it's their own knives.
Stealth mode makes you harder to detect and allows you to circumnavigate enemies by using a cover-to-cover approach. Our target is hiding away on the 3rd floor. Let's get to him.
It wasn't me. I'm not the man you're after.
Where is he?
Palais de Justice, the executions.
Good. You should leave this place.
Merci, monsieur. Merci. Merci.
It seems our target isn't here. Let's make our way to the Palais de Justice and track him down. You can see the unique skyline of Paris, as well as the one-to-one scale of the city, which gives navigation a completely new feeling. To support the assassin advantage on rooftops, we've added the high ground feature, letting us quickly and seamlessly see the gameplay opportunities around us. Taverns are social hubs of a kind, offering a variety of options to players, such as shopkeepers and join-in-progress opportunities for co-op missions. Food was becoming scarce at this stage of the revolution, and these people are arguing over grain. We could get involved, but we'll go past it for today.
I told you, you'll get your
This street is blocked by aggressors, the enemy faction. We can't fight them, because that will attract protectors, and we aren't quite strong enough to fight them off yet. We'll avoid these for now, by parkouring up this wall. This massive crowd has gathered to watch the public executions by the guillotine down the street. To find our target, we'll use Eagle Pulse, a limited skill right now, as we haven't unlocked the full power yet. Our target, Captain Xavier, is making his way to the guillotine stand to start the executions. As an assassin, we are the blade in the crowd. We have a lot of ways we could kill our target. We can use the Phantom Blade, the new assassin's signature weapon. We could use a stun bomb on the guards. Or we could use the new disguise skill and walk right up to him. In this case, let's send a message to the Templars and make this execution as public as we can.
In this city, all men are not created equal. For centuries, my countrymen have suffered under the oppression of an ignorant and decadent aristocracy. The common people cry out for food, for liberty, for justice. But they shall have no justice without someone to fight in their name. So I will wage my silent war in the shadows. The time has come for revolution, for those to unite and make history.
Peggy 18.
Hi, I'm Leslie, a producer on Assassin's Creed Unity. The team and I are excited to present the world premiere of our new co-op gameplay. For the first time ever, you can experience the open world of Paris with up to 3 friends in one of the most brutal, chaotic time periods in human history, the French Revolution. Today's mission takes place at the dawn of the French Revolution, where the people of France are dying of starvation. 4 assassins will be playing together to infiltrate a royal palace under siege. Your objective is to assassinate the Marquis, a corrupt noble hoarding food, and help bring justice to the people. We've built the city of Paris to be a truly open world, entirely available for you and your friends to explore. The result is an urban playground that's yours to discover with seamless interiors, massive catacombs, and monumental scope and scale. The mob demands justice. Unity's new massive crowds are made up of thousands of active AIs. They'll react to players and each other to help create a feeling of immersion. These chain reactions can be used to your advantage. Coordination is key when playing with friends. His air assassination just saved me from being discovered. Detection would mean a completely different experience and outcome. Assassinating the guards inspired the crowd to storm the palace by force. These massive crowds are but one of Paris's inhabitants. Rival factions fight for control in the bloody revolution streets. While we entered the palace through the front gate, 2 of our friends managed to find another way in and helped us just in time. Unity's online experience is at its best during those split-second moments of synchronicity, saving friends, avoiding detection, or going all out in full combat.
Take care of this, or I will use your head as a...
That's our target. He's heavily guarded. We should keep exploring the palace and look for a better opportunity to strike.
First one that brings me ahead gets 50 soon. You heard me?
Fortunately, one of our friends has used his lockpick skill to open an alternate path. In Unity, you'll have multiple ways to execute your strategy. That freedom, alongside randomized ingredients such as guards, locations, paths, or rewards, ensure each new playthrough is different.
We need to hold the rear gates. I will run my...
That was close. I almost got detected by those 2 guards, but my friend got to them first. I returned the favor by taking out the last one with my new stealth weapon, the Phantom Blade. This courtyard is called the Jardin du Luxembourg. It's just one of the many historical locations you'll explore in the game. From the Notre Dame Cathedral to the creepy tunnel of the catacombs, you'll discover Paris in a way you've never seen it before.
Thank you all for coming. Despite the poor sports outside, our illustrious host, the Marquis, wishes to assure you that the rabble outside can cause us no...
Return fire! Now!
Playing with friends means that combat is cooperative, deeper, and more challenging. You can stake out large areas, plan, strategize, and take down much bigger threats together.
Together. Spare me, please. They're only peasants!
That's it. Experience the chaos of the French Revolution with your friends in Assassin's Creed Unity. Thank you.
Napoleon?
You certainly don't look like a blood-crazed revolutionary. The hood is a bit sinister, though, if you don't mind my saying.
It is sometimes hard to remember how easy life was before the world changed. Now people are starving in the streets, and those with the will to fight back are imprisoned, or worse. Where am I?
In hell. We shall yield to nothing but bayonets!
The life I had is gone.
Your father was an assassin, Arno.
The world I knew with it.
Father?
He gave his life, fighting for the liberty of all mankind.
Are you prepared to travel the Eagle's path?
Boys ready?
Rise, assassin.
Amongst the violence.
The vote is cast, Grandmaster. The king will die.
Amongst the chaos.
Honor your father's memory.
I will find justice no matter the cost.
This is why I joined the Brotherhood.
For revenge.
For redemption.
Monsieur Maximilien de Robespierre.
I will never talk.
Marquis de Sade.
You used me. We used one another.
You're the only one who can save the Brotherhood?
We can, together.
It happens tonight.
Please.
You want to protect me?
I want to help you.
Nicely done, my friend.
If you don't have the stomach for revenge, then I don't need your help.
We've been betrayed from within.
Conspiracy. Intrigue.
I have to do this myself.
We had really, I think, shook the foundations of the industry with AC1 when we introduced, gorgeous looking game with these open world cities, seamless, no loading, and we've done pretty much what we can do with the last generation, right? We've taken both consoles to pretty much their breaking limit.
So the initial project goal for ACU, and the name spoils it a little bit, it was to create the first fully and next-gen Assassin's Creed by blurring the lines between single player, multiplayer, co-op, and the purely online element of more social games.
So narrative works when you're motivating the player on a very linear story, but when you create a rich open world with all these different activities, it needs to be more. We wanted to create a city that not only is super detailed, large and beautiful, but we wanted to have depth to that city. We wanted it to be full of characters, full of NPCs, full of activities, and full of rewards. And we wanted to let the player loose in that universe and really let them explore and find that stuff on their own.
I love being able to create brand new experiences that leverage the new hardware, and so doing that on Assassin's Creed 1 was really exciting because we didn't even have dev kits really, and we not only were creating a new IP for this new hardware that we didn't really know or understand yet, we were also building a brand new engine, which ended up being an engine that's used throughout Ubisoft on a bunch of games. And our focus was really, what can we do on this hardware to change the gameplay experience for players? What can we do that's never been done before?
AC was built as a single player experience, most and foremost. So what we had to do is to make sure that, because we're building a sandbox and an open world game, we needed to make sure to onlineize all of our different features, and we have hundreds of them.
When you're on a mission, we tend to control a lot. This is the opposite philosophy of what we did with Unity. The idea was to create a large, living, breathing, systemic city, let you manipulate that city, and then embrace that sandbox nature, even in missions.
We've reimagined all three main pillars. First one being navigation. So parkour will give the players more abilities than before. Control over going up or going down, and precisely selecting where players want to go. We've reimagined the combat pillar altogether as well. I guess the fight system is a little bit harder than before, and that's also done on purpose to support the third pillar, which is stealth. So altogether, these three pillars, they come together and they form the core gameplay loop of our game.
It was the great time to do the same types of bets that we did on AC1 for a new generation change. So we looked at all of our workflow and we made sure that we could iterate as fast as possible. So we were able to focus on multiplayer afterwards. And on top of that, obviously, we were able to do a big push on graphics to get a totally new experience.
But we really wanted to focus on something that would take us back to the core of Assassin's Creed. So going back to a large, sprawling urban center. So we asked ourselves, if we were to go back to that route, what would be the perfect setting to showcase next-generation hardware? Well, Paris is the most visited city in the world. It's literally, teeming with monuments. You can't turn a street corner without running into some sort of landmark. And then the period of French Revolution was a period of really of upheaval with, hundreds of thousands of people taking the streets. So we're like, well, the crowd, social stealth, is one of the core pillars of the brand. The large, sprawling urban areas is another core pillar of the brand. So why not bring that all together and create a game set in that, unique setting? So this is sort of how it converged.
So you've got all the landmarks in, and these landmarks are incredibly huge. Like, they're close to one-to-one scale. So it really feels like you're in Paris. If the city has literally tens of thousands of buildings, and if you can go into one in every 4 buildings, every building is a potential story. Every building is a potential reward. And you really start getting a sense that the world is no longer a movie set. It feels like an actual world. The other thing we did is when you say French Revolution, well, there's the word revolution. That's more than a dozen people screaming, right? So you need to have large crowds. So we're up to about, I think, 5,000 NPCs on screen right now. And those NPCs, I'm not talking about like just people, like random animations. These are interactive. So if you, for example, you do something that will startle them, like shoot a gun in the air and they're right next to you, they will bail, they will run away. So having 5,000 characters on screen just running away is a feat unto itself, but it's something that we've been working on for a very long time.
So suddenly we're in a big open world and a huge city. So the idea is to create opportunities for people to come together and have fun things to do in co-op. We're supporting 4-player co-op, and we have tons of content. There's single-player content, there's co-op content, and also players can just explore the city together and experience Paris together, which is really exciting.
Our goal was to unify what we were doing separately, which was multiplayer and our strong single-player experience into one single game. That's why we needed to build the right team and then really take our time to do that. We had a studio in Annecy, we had a studio in Singapore, a studio in Quebec City as well. This year around, we're still working with these major studios. We've added Toronto to our list of partners this year.
So we knew that Assassin's Creed Unity was looking for partners. They were in pre-production at the time, and basically Vince came over with a couple of other people and said, hey, this is where we think you guys can help us.
Our role on AC Unity was bringing that knowledge of creating good co-op maps and co-op gameplay and applying that to the Assassin's Creed universe.
In the past, we worked on co-op, but it was within a much smaller scope in terms of the size of the world, something that we called like broad linear level design, where you do have opportunities to branch off and do different things, but within a very confined space.
We really wanted to steer away from that. So what we think is, if you make the world challenging enough, if you make the opportunities be easier or more logical to perform by multiple players, if you then give those players complementary skills, people will naturally play co-op.
So you have to really keep that in mind and make sure that you design for every possible approach and for every possible play style. Some players might be more action-oriented. You need to make sure that the fights on the ground are good and that the difficulty is balanced appropriately to encourage co-op.
Back in, I think around October, I started talking to Vince about how, Toronto, since we're working on co-op and we know that they would probably need a co-op demo for E3, I said, hey, Toronto wants to get involved.
Doing demos is always taxing, but as I said, it's part of the process. We have to do it. We want to do it.
The way game development is done on this project is Montreal's in charge of all of the technology, all of the tools, all of the features, or most of the features. Specifically for the demo, we're kind of building the top parts of the layers of the content. So we're building, the city, the levels, the mission, everything that kind of sits on top of the foundation of the technology and the features. So we have to work together.
Ultimately, it's a good win for the team, and once we have it, we have a cool benchmark. And then we can say, remember the E3 demo or the other demo? Well, that's the kind of quality we need to hit for the rest of the game.
What we talked about with the team was E3 is going to be a great opportunity for us to take something to final, take something to polish, and be able to know what that process is and understand how to work together and get there.
For our E3 demo, we wanted something that would be very impactful in a short period of time. We're going to be up there on stage for 5 minutes, and we want people to understand the conflict, to feel the energy, and to understand the gameplay progression as well.
So Alex challenged us, to tell the story of the French Revolution, the macro story of the peasant and the noble battle, framed up within this mission. We were going to set up the conflict between the classes, that really defines the French Revolution.
In the French Revolution, today's extremists were tomorrow's moderates, and the next day they were dead. And this is what happened throughout the whole thing, right? So this lent itself really well to that sort of who is right, what is freedom, what is control, right? And that sort of shifts.
So the idea was to really tell the story of what it's like to be a noble, thrust into the hands of insanely violent and angry peasants. We're going to have to do that first person. And AC is not a first person game, so it's really a jolting experience.
So we decided very early on to go with a very classic conflict from the French Revolution, which was the people versus nobility. And we set the mission around the bread riots that broke out early in the French Revolution.
So you're going to see streets that are full of chaos and under pressure, and that really represents the population that we're wading through and that we're climbing over. What the player's going to experience is they're going to see the difference between the social classes in terms of outside it's chaos, there's barricades everywhere, things are upheaved. You go inside, and all of a sudden, visually, everything is very organized, very formatted.
So the mission takes place with peasants breaking into a palace. The peasants are starving. Inside the palace, the corrupt marquis is having a party. He's feasting. And there's this inequality, and you can really understand that as a player. And that's what we built the whole demo around.
Take care of this, or I will use your head as a piss pot.
So the nice thing is, even though we're spending a ton of time building this beautiful palace and the gardens and everything, we'll actually have that in game. And we have featured actually quite a lot of content which will be shipped in the game in that same location. Friday afternoon, we kind of got the call from Montreal to say, okay, we've cleared our schedules. Why don't you and Natai come over? We're going to sit down, go through the entire E3 strategy and figure out how to get our two demos to complement each other, but as well as get your demo down to this 5-minute window. So we flew out Monday morning, spent 2 days in Montreal. We scrubbed through everything at a super detailed level, and we found some really great solutions.
Things can be tweaked. Sometimes additional hard decisions need to be made, but usually the game is pretty much locked. I mean, we know what we're building, we know why we're doing it, we know why we want to show publicly, and then it's a matter of just finishing and then polishing the rest until we feel satisfied with the overall product. And, we're proud to release it.
I wish everything was locked. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we've been working on it for a long time, and that's one of the reasons I think we're going to see a lot of quality in AC Unity. but it's not finished.
Everyone on the team now is super excited that we have a demo, and no one's frustrated that, you know, we're trying different things that we know may not go into the full game, because we're already seeing the learning. We're already seeing how every time we iterate, we get better, we get faster.
We're going to work on it until the game ships. And I think you're going to see something at E3 that's going to be amazing, but the final game is going to be even more amazing.
For ACU, we decided to invest a lot in lighting. One of the main subjects that we attacked is GI, global illumination, which also includes sky occlusion. So we're looking at the sky dome and we're baking occlusion at the high precision level, much more precise than it used to be in previous games.
So the world looks completely next gen. I mean, we were never even close to achieving this in any other AC game. Plus, we do it in an open world of that size with seamless interiors with no loading anytime.
Something really next gen, because we knew we had a couple of years ahead of us, so we tackled the technology to begin with.
So we looked at all kinds of ways to make sure that we could deliver that massive amount of detail and to get a really rich experience. So we looked at how we build the cities, we looked at how we animate our characters, how the programmers deal with a huge code base. And we made major improvements in all of those areas.
The fun part is using the power in the right way and trying to not only increase the numbers, but how much you can overhaul the experience, how much you can refresh it. How can we take the core values of Assassin's Creed, now that we have all this power, what can we improve beyond just adding more of everything?
So obviously next gen, I mean, you have the chance to really do a totally new pass at graphic and have that wow moment. And I really think that we're at that point with AC Unity.
The look of Assassin's Creed is about something that we want to make it look real and believable, and at the same time bring some personality to it. So we don't want to do something that's as real as a touristic photo, but more something close to a movie where it has this very believable and realistic signature, but at the same time has some persona, some style, some uniqueness to it.
Like for the environment, we had amazing open world. It looked really great in the sunshine, but in the shadow it was kind of flat, it lacked contrast. And we looked at physically based rendering that tries to mimic our environment and how light really works in the world. And we brought that, and we have enough power now to bring that to the consoles.
So for ACU, we decided to invest a lot in lighting. One of the main subjects that we attacked is GI, global illumination, which also includes sky occlusion. GI is basically light bouncing all over the place, mostly from the directional light, which is the sun, but also from local lights. So if I bring up the cloud, this is all, well, I'm showing you as a step-by-step process, but it's fully dynamic in game. It adapts and it works with rain. It will bring weather dynamically, and it will also affect the ground level. So the more sky coverage I get, the more shadowing I get from the sky, but less lighting bounce also, less sun bounce. So it affects the GI, it affects everything. Everything is related. It's unified.
In terms of the atmosphere, it's reflected through a very moody and atmospheric ambience. So you see smoke, you see dust, you see fog, mist. So this helps to fit with the context of the French Revolution, the urban context, but also helps to give it some very unique look.
On the weather side, we basically took everything that was done on previous ACs, which were quite amazing, and we pushed it up a notch. Like you have now materials that become wetter and you see puddles forming. It's really amazing visuals there.
We feel that we're finally closing in the gap on the movie industry, the cinema look and feel. We have these controls for the lenses, for the depth of field, for the different, like I said, lighting, VFX.
So the world looks completely next gen. I mean, we were never even close to achieving this in any other AC game. Plus, we do it in an open world of that size with seamless interiors with no loading anytime, right? So that was the first breakthrough.
Not only are we just once again building an entire setting from the ground up, but now we're going back to the urban settings. It's Paris during the 18th century. Paris was already a big place. It's the largest city we've ever recreated.
Just to give you a sense of scale, Paris is about the size of the entire frontier in AC3, but it's highly densely populated urban area.
Traditionally, level designers actually place each house by hand, one after the other. And I mean, to do this on the scale, on the semi-real scale of Paris is just insane. It wouldn't scale at all.
So we built a tool called Paris Pâté to procedurally generate the streets of Paris and all the different districts.
The house block generator permits the city designers to do quicker layouts than previously. Before, it was something that was very tedious and hard to change. And now the tool permits more flexibility. So we have a tool and we can draw a sort of street shape. And on this shape, we can assign a theme. And within this theme, you'll have all the houses contained for a specific district. So the houses are cyclable, the roofs are cyclable. So you can see that with Paris Pâté or the house block generator, you can see that it's easy for the city designer to say, okay, I'm having trouble running along this roof, so I can lower the roof to make the parkour easier.
So we created Lego blocks for the different type of neighborhoods that we have, a more rich, a more cultural, a poor neighborhood. And this tool populates the streets with all of these Lego blocks to create a unique Paris that we'll be able to navigate and go through as Arnaud in the main story.
And this basically allowed the level designers to get the city up and running really quickly at a really high quality level that we only usually get at the end of the project. So we were able to get a sense of the city really quickly. But we didn't stop at the environments. I mean, we looked at the characters. We looked at everything from hair, cloth, eyes, skin, character performance. And we did a lot of work on scanning actors and getting a lot of detail, getting emotions, and getting interesting animation rigs from actors. Because, I mean, just having the world being photorealistic is nice, but we have to populate it, and that's where it really comes alive.
We made a couple of improvements on character rendering, the quality, making sure that it looks more realistic and believable. So the skin, the eyes, the hair, and as well as to make sure that everything is still easy to create and is flexible. So if you look at this guy here, without skin shader, you'll notice that he looks a lot like a rock. You can see that it's very grayish, doesn't look alive. But with skin shader, you see that there's blood running through. You can also sense the detail in the pores. So that's one of the things that we did to make sure that the characters look more alive and believable. The other thing we made sure that would look realistic and believable is the cloth itself. And so every artist are basically fashion designers. They create the pattern that you see here, and then a physics simulation is applied, so you can really sense the weight of every fold, and once it's integrated into engine, it looks like this.
The more realistic we make characters, the more pressure it puts on animation, because a realistic character that moves in a optimized animation type of way looks like a zombie.
This is just a preview of what we do with our rigs and what we get for facial animation for cinematics. This is our engine right here, and this is Motion Builder, which is where we tweak all our facial animation curves. And all this is actually real time. So at any frame, you could see that we could actually change the mouth corners, do actual little things if we want on the face. You see that we do have a lot of control over every part of the face, just to make sure we get all the expressions that we need.
So the quality of the character, the main character, especially in AC, is driven by programmers traditionally and animators that work together. But they work really in separate worlds. The animators, like, they basically work the animation and stuff, but they were very dependent on the programmers to integrate the animations. Basically, you had a programmer that had to enter a line of code before the animator could see what he was doing.
Kino is a node-based behavior tool that was developed for Assassin's Creed Unity to help us with rapid prototyping animations. It allows animators to not only build animations, but to also implement them and integrate them into the game themselves. Our animators are able to both develop the animation, and because they are able to put them into the game themselves, they know how the behaviors and the flow work in the game, and they're much more efficient because of it.
So we put a lot of effort into not only into animation variety, so the actual quality, but then the variety of animation, and then the AI. It puts a lot of pressure on AI. What are these people doing?
So what we're trying to do with the crowds this time on Assassin's Creed Unity is, one, we want to have a lot more crowds than we've ever had on any of our previous games. So right now, for example, in our Paris map, we have over 30,000 crowd characters that are loaded just in that one map.
We need to have enough people with believable animations, believable life. They have to have a meaning in the city. They just can't be bystanders anymore.
So we really want all of our crowds to be aware of their surroundings, about what the player just did, about what the other NPCs are doing in the game. So really a big focus on interaction. So you'll see characters that see each other in the street, they wave to each other, they'll stop. There's 20 to 30 different variations of these. Sometimes it's women stopping other women, gossiping in the street. Sometimes it's couples that see each other. Like over here, you see a romantic interaction that's going on. Here, if I take this guy also as an example, we have our new mood system. So here you'll see he's in a neutral mood pose, but change his mood at any point. Here he's confused, curious. What this means is not only just for our static crowds, but for our moving crowds as well. We could set a certain percentage of people based off of the mission, of how many people are happy, how many people are stressed, how many people are angry.
So by having this possibility for the crowd, having so many people, we're able to have these conflicts within the streets, to have massive amount of people fill up these key places like in front of Notre Dame, and addressing the situation and addressing, being able to revolt. And it's the first time that we'll have the assassin walk through this.
So now you have lots of NPCs, but you can actually go within those crowds and interact. It changes the experience, and I think when you put all of those pieces together, it's going to really just be amazing. So we get about 10 times more animation, 10 times more polygons, 10 times the size of the number of pixels in our textures. So we had to think about how we deal with that amount of data without basically having our own engine the whole engine crumble.
What's really hard is that we're working on a 24-hour cycle. There's always someone programming something or checking stuff, so making sure that it's hard to make sure that we're not breaking the other people's work because we've checked in something at 4 in the morning.
We've worked really, really hard to make sure that the flow from getting your data okay in the editor to the console and to even our partners in Bucharest, for example, in the studios all over the world is really, really short. So now cooking the data is much, much shorter. We're within 5 minutes of generating the full city with 10 times more data that we had for next gen.
What I want to succeed at with ACU is making sure that not only we have the best graphics, but that we have a systemic game and that we have an AC that really feels, looks and feels like a refreshed experience. I want people to go crazy all over again with being an assassin and playing that fantasy, and hopefully with friends. And that's the big takeaways that I want people to have from ACU.
Because of a tragic event in his life, Arnaud is essentially raised by a Templar, Templar Grand Master.
Working in the Assassin-Templar conflict into the revolution, that's actually pretty challenging. In the French Revolution, it's like, well, whose side do you want to be on? There's kind of the crazy people who want to chop everybody's heads off, and then there's the slightly less crazy people who want to chop most people's heads off.
You get a real good exposition of both the Assassins and the Templars and how both of these factions at one point could have prevented a lot of the bad things that happened in the French Revolution if they had just joined together. But because of these ideals, this fanaticism, it actually keeps them spread apart and it actually doesn't help the people.
Napoleon, you certainly don't look like a blood-crazed revolutionary. The hood is a bit sinister, though, if you don't mind my saying.
It's no secret that we have a list of the most interesting pivotal moments in history, and if we could, we would do them all. But one thing's for sure, at least in my book, is that AC is about being an assassin. It's about the fantasy of being there and stalking your prey and being smarter than your enemies.
Early on in the project, we decided to make a game that was about a character and not about the French Revolution. And then the story really becomes a story about the dangers of believing blindly in one cause, be it one or the other, right? And you get a real good exposition of both the Assassins and the Templars and how both of these factions at one point could have prevented a lot of the bad things that happened in the French Revolution if they had just joined together. But because of these ideals, this fanaticism, it actually keeps them spread apart and it actually doesn't help the people. Our new assassin his motivation is one of redemption, first of all. Because of a tragic event in his life, Arnaud is essentially raised by a Templar, Templar Grand Master. And he actually befriends the Templar's daughter, Elise. They grow up together. That man, François de la Serre, gets murdered. And essentially, Arnaud feels responsible for the murder of de la Serre. Arnaud decides to embark on a quest to stop whoever murdered de la Serre.
Yes, we're coming back to the Assassin versus Templar storyline. It's there, it's in the background, but we're reintroducing it. We've purposely prevented ourselves from delivering too much or overexposing too much of that storyline. And we want to bring back a little bit of the mystery of it.
The years our game pretty much covers is 1789 through 1795 about, which is when the main French Revolution happens. I mean, there were things leading up, but the fall of the Bastille is generally considered like, okay, that's the seminal moment where the people are really asserting themselves. Our game starts a little bit before that because there were some important things that happened before that, but that kind of really starts all the action going.
The country was ruled by the monarchy. The monarchy, they knew how to spend money, they didn't know how to make money, so the country was essentially broke. People were dying of hunger, people were sick, Paris was in squalor, and people at one point decided to overthrow this corrupt monarchy. A tipping point was reached where
people essentially took up arms and eradicated the monarchy. They killed people, they were beheading people, not only monarchs, not only the monarchy, but even themselves. They lost control.
In the French Revolution, it's like, well, whose side do you want to be on? There's kind of the crazy people who want to chop everybody's heads off, and then there's the slightly less crazy people who want to chop most people's heads off. The story we've come up with is the Assassins and the Templars themselves are going through kind of evolutions, and they themselves are trying to figure out the direction where they want their organizations to go. And there's a disagreement within both of those camps. And that's playing out in the middle of this maelstrom of a revolution where they've got to lend their support here or there as they think is going to advance their own interests. On top of that, you have Arnaud and his personal story. He is also going through a character development and having to work that in with the backdrop of all these giant events swirling about him.
Turns out that there was sort of internal strife, civil war within the Templars, and whoever took control of the Templars has decided to do so by killing the Grand Master and shifting gears and turning the Templars in a new direction that might be dangerous for the world. So this is the sort of quest Arnaud embarks on, and as he's sort of investigating this and discovering who was implicated, he starts finding different targets, different Templar targets, going up and up in the chain until he discovers who this murky sort of new Grand Master is.
To your health, gentlemen. You boy, so!
So having this rich, dense urban setting is the perfect environment to play out that fantasy. And also because we took a break from it, I think it's kind of cool to reintroduce it using like the modern technologies and next-gen graphical power, and also being able to have even more crowds, more people, more interactions with the characters. I think people are going to be happily surprised to be going back to that kind of fantasy.
First, we did a lot of research on the paintings of the era, because it depicts in a good way, in a very descriptive way and personal way what the era was about, what's the fashion of the era, the architectural style, what's the type of characters that lived during this period. And then after that we went deeply into the written descriptions, whether it's through historical writings or some stories that will be written for the era, historical stories.
With the city of Paris, we had a great opportunity because as we researched it, there's just so many personalities and events, and just there's no way we could get all of that in the main story, but this way, every single little open world activity you do has some hook into actual historical events.
We have a lot of different factions. You have sort of royalists at the beginning, revolutionaries, then you have moderates, extremists, and to us that gave us the idea, what if you could actually manipulate those factions? What if you could actually use those different factions as gameplay elements? And we've actually integrated a lot of those systems directly into the game. So essentially, there's stuff you can do in the city that helps change, and district by district, it helps change the actual fabric of the city, the actual, not the layout, but the sort of the NPC ecosystems in these different areas. And that literally changes the way you can play the missions that are set in that district.
One thing we've done is we've divided the city into kind of themes. So different neighborhoods will have different thematic resonances to the sorts of missions that you can choose to go on.
To create variety into the city, we relied a lot on stylization and exaggeration. So we read about the different districts of the real Paris and tried to gather as much info about what could be unique about this district. And we took this theme or flavor and exaggerated a little bit.
What's interesting about Paris is a vast, flat terrain, and it's broken by huge, massive monuments. So we have these majestic locations and landmarks all over the place. So you have the tall and the shorter buildings. You have a lot of interesting shapes. But also there's a lot of duality even within the social structure, and that's something that fascinates me about this time period, is if you were ultra rich or if you were really poor, there was more of a visual distinction between that.
And each of these different districts is sort of a little city on its own, right? It has, not only does it have its own architectural style, it has its own thematics, its own characters, its own types of missions, its own flavor, its own sound, everything. Even down to the types of songs that are sung in taverns. It's unique to the district. And then we actually added voice. Our NPCs just mimed, they didn't talk. Now they're actually, some of them are actually going to get to talk, hear conversations. And which is really cool because when you're, for example, you're doing a mission, you're stealthing, you can actually overhear guards, and the stuff that they're going to be talking about is stuff that's related to the mission, or maybe they're just their daily lives. It really gives a lot of realism to the game, right? It just feels more realistic. It feels more like a real city and not a big simulation. Unity, for the first time, we have full-scale buildings. So Notre Dame, the cathedral, it's actually real size. It's huge. It really changes everything.
To create Notre Dame, it's taken me in totally 14 months. I take 10 months for the outside, 4 months for the inside. It was to create more than 369 unique modules to create the entire Notre Dame. That's the time I take for this. Yeah, it includes all the research, the composition, and debugging to adapt the matrix for the behavior and stuff like this.
What was overwhelming for me was seeing statues and all the craftsmanship that went into building this architecture. So for us building this, it's a very exciting thing to work on because as artists, we're all about details, we're all about, playing with scale. And it's the perfect vernacular to work within. And for us, it sets our own challenges as artists to really express this and make it as immersive and as possible for anyone.
It's a living city with all kinds of, people that were secondary in the revolution, but they're still very, very interesting. So little tidbits of like, oh, this is how that worked, this is who that was.
It's cool when it's murky events because you can, we have our own interpretation, but if the events are too well documented, then essentially it's a checklist, right? Oh, then, you have to do this, you can't do that because historically that's not what happened. So we decided to just keep it in as a backdrop. But throughout that narrative, Arnaud also learns a lot of different lessons, right?
Our tagline is "History is our playground." One of our core values is having fun with history, being as true as possible to it, and have it be an inspiration for us and for people ultimately.
A lot of times reality is a little underwhelming, but if you help it a little, and this is the magic of of video games, right? You can actually give it a little bit of a twist to make it feel more, if there is a message, you can make that message feel more real by twisting it and giving it a little bit of an artistic flourish.
It's a way for us to play with very interesting and pivotal moments in human history, and fusing that with the core fantasy of being an assassin and the Assassin Brotherhood. That's what AC is all about. It's playing with history.
Stealth was always one of our core pillars. You have navigation, you have fight, and you have social stealth, right? What we've done now is we've really tried to revamp the stealth pillar to make it, first of all, more immersive, second of all, give you more control, and make it more accessible.
You have a target, you have an objective in the game, and around that we are building opportunities. And all the opportunities are tailored for each play style you can have. So of course, if you are specialized in combat and you want to go in stealth, you can try. If you are good, you can pass, but it will be more difficult.
Rated M for mature.
So the boss, what's he like?
He's tired of the rich trampling on the poor.
Your services are no longer needed.
He's just like the rest of the gang. Wants to change things.
Difference is, he actually can.
So, when do we begin?
Must say we take back London.
I think you got the message.
Boss! Let's travel out of manuals. Come on, hurry up!
The fun never stops. Come on, look lively, Rooks.
They tell me you touched the rainbow at the sound of a road cracking on your neck. They tell me you never give up, like the song that was soul singing in your heart. So honey, please don't let go, or you fall into the dead of night. So honey, please don't let go. You better learn to fly, 'cause they're gonna put you up at the sky. The more that you want, the more that you need it. I know you'll be by my side.
Who the hell are you? Wait! Wait!
I'll let you take it from here, lads. Try the bitter.
Who's that?
It's actually quite drinkable. Go on, toast your noble boss, this thief of children. Or you could do better. Join me. Join the Rooks. Go get him!
Jacob, Mr. Fry, listen. We can split the money. I mean, just take it all.
Rooks with me.
I'm going with a rook.
Come on, I've seen enough.
Is there a problem, my lord?
No, nothing that concerns you.
Reach out and touch flame. Reach out and touch flame. You're on, personal, Jesus.
thine is the glory, then mine must be the shame. You want it darker. We kill the flame. Magnified, sanctified be thy holy name. Vilified, crucified in the human frame. A million candles burning for the help that never came. You want it darker. I'm ready, my lord. There's a lover in the story, but the story's still the same. There's a lullaby for suffering and a paradox to blame. But it's written in the scriptures and it's not some idle claim. You want it darker. We kill the flame. They're lining up the prisoners and the guards are taking aim. I struggled with some demons, they were middle class and tame. I didn't know I had permission to murder and to maim. You want it darker.
In Assassin's Creed, traditionally, there is, yes, an action component, which is very important, but there is also a very contemplative aspect.
In the Discovery Tour, we really wanted to focus the main experience on discovering and learning.
And all of a sudden, you're not in the game anymore. You're just in Egypt, enjoying it, and looking at the world like never before.
It started off in 2014. A lot of professors were contacting us saying, hey, you know what? It would be amazing if you could do a mode, a dedicated mode for us so that we could use that into classrooms. It's been in our mind ever since. We were thinking like, all right, how can we make the game different? something that would be interesting for students, but also that would be interesting for our players.
The idea is to be able to share the entire world without heavy narrative or fight control that would be a barrier, and we just let you enjoy the entire world, but keeping the interactivity of the game, which is, I think, very important for such a tool. So in addition to explore the entire world, we decided to add more than 75 tours that are thematically framed. Most of the tours will be about the architecture, the people, the way of life. But we have also very specific stations that are clearly identified, where we will try to tell more about our development process so that people understand a bit better the development of video games.
With the Discovery Tour, we can be proactive about the information that we give, understanding that sometimes it's just artistic liberty, where we raised a little bit the pyramids so that you see them from afar. But the dimensions of the pyramid are actually true, and the way that we build it is actually based on all the knowledge that we have at the moment. Very early on, we knew that something that was interesting was to have external point of view on what we're doing. So to have a scientist and his team doing an external research on our product is great.
On est celui qui décide ce qu'on fait, on pense, donc on est impliqué dans l'action, on est engagé. En plus de l'être parce que c'est intéressant et beau, on est engagé parce qu'on doit prendre des décisions. Et si on regarde tous les détails, si on a quelqu'un qui nous guide pour les voir en plus, on maximise l'apprentissage. Ça veut dire qu'un élève laissé à lui-même, à la maison, en faisant le tour guidé, apprendrait beaucoup de choses, sans même se faire dire « tu dois apprendre ceci », là.
They reconstructed a world that doesn't exist anymore. Because when we teach, we try to help them to be immersed in that kind of environment, but to see it at the same time. That's something brand new for the teachers and really helpful, because students, I think, will remember more what we teach if they can feel it.
We are really here to say, you know what, video games can bring more than pure entertainment. I'm really happy about the quantity and the quality of things that we're bringing to the people so that they can actually enjoy and really learn about ancient Egypt.
To create a Discovery Tour on ancient Greece was a no-brainer for us. It's a crossing between the worlds of museums, the world of archaeology, and the world of video game.
Discovery Tour's immersion and being in the game world itself is just a very unique experience that you can't get through other mediums. The whole world is open to you.
So the Discovery Tour Ancient Greece is actually the second opus of that new franchise. It's a result of game developers wanting to reuse the worlds of Assassin's Creed to create a second tool really meant for people to learn through the fun medium of a video game. First Discovery Tour was a dream for us. It was great, but we wanted to do more. We wanted to improve the experience, and we wanted to be more accessible to more people. So we have 5 different teams that really help you to understand the time period of antiquity, like famous cities, daily life, battles and wars, politics and philosophy, and also art, religion, and myths. In order to make the Discovery Tour accessible to more people, we've changed a little bit the experience. We still kept the tours that are really the core experience of the Discovery Tour. They are accessible from the start. You can play them, you can interact with them, but then we're going deeper into the experience.
We have the Discovery sites, and they're really just kind of standalone spots all over the world that have different interests. Some of them are on really tall mountains, some of them are under the water. So you really got to explore to find them all, which is a new kind of interaction that we brought.
When you're discovering sites, when you're interacting with tours, you're actually receiving rewards. These rewards are mounts that you can travel with or avatars that you can play with.
There's also the tour guides that have a more human sense to the interaction that you have with the tours, and especially with the quizzes at the end that are very lighthearted and fun. Sometimes people can be intimidated by quizzes, but we're not there to give you a grade.
These are not mandatory, but they're super fun, and they really enhance your learning experience.
Même si on n'est pas joueur et qu'on n'a pas vraiment de talent en jeux vidéo, on est capable d'aller découvrir des choses de façon très simple, c'est très intuitif, très instructif aussi. C'est vraiment une dimension qui est intéressante qu'on verrait pas peut-être dans d'autres médias en général.
We are at the crossing of a video game and a science product. So really it was important for us to bring the good aspects of video games into the Discovery Tour, but also to get feedback and do research from the academic side.
Le jeu éducatif, c'est vraiment un outil innovateur. À une certaine époque, on enseignait avec le cinéma, on le fait encore, on enseignait avec les romans, on le fait encore, avec le théâtre, peu importe. Là, c'est un outil supplémentaire qui vient se greffer à toutes les possibilités que l'enseignant peut user dans sa pratique.
I think learning is a lot about agency. As soon as someone tells you have to learn something, there's some of the fun taken away from it. So if we look at learning as play and as exploring, we need to make sure that players can focus on what's interesting to them, and then they'll naturally get more curious.
10 years ago, I was dreaming of building something like the Discovery Tour, and now I see that we have a product that is in front of the line. There's nothing like it on the market.
I hope people will learn about ancient Greece, whatever most fascinates them, because there's so many different things you can pull away from the game with. I hope everyone finds something that resonates with them.
They are heartless. Godless barbarians. They murder and kill blindly. They scar the lands of England. Lands they will never defend, never love. The time has come to speak to them in a language they will understand.
Somebody tell me. Answer if you can. Oh, somebody tell me. Shields!
see your fate. It flows like a river, carved out before you. I can see your desires, taking you far from your home, to lands of power, of mystics and legends. But you are hiding something. You walk with shadows. What is it you seek? I see conquest. I see your enemies. Your struggles. Your doubts. Glory awaits you, Eivor. But it will cost you everything. I can see all of it. Blood and flame. Loyalty and family. Betrayal. Hunger. There is a war within you. And glory will not be enough.
In Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you will relive the epic saga of the Viking invasion of England. You play as Eivor, a Viking from Norway, who will lead his or her battle-hardened warriors across the North Sea to the British Isles. Eivor is driven by an ambitious goal, to build a thriving Norse settlement in a hostile land.
For the good of our clan, it is time we go a Viking. Today we raid, that tomorrow we may build.
England is a dark age tangle of broken kingdoms and warring dynasties, a land of opportunity and riches. As you prowl England's rivers by longship, you may raid locations you spot from the shoreline. Ground your ship and blow your horn to lead your raiding crew into battle. Your crew will assist you in all your raids, fighting enemies, battering down doors, and stealing cargo too heavy for one set of arms. Whatever riches and resources you pillage may be used to develop your settlement, giving you access to useful services, better tools, and new settlers. At the heart of your settlement is the Alliance map. It will serve as a record of the allies you have made, and a guide for future opportunities. The Viking Age was a time of warriors and legends. In Valhalla, you will find the largest variety of enemies ever assembled in an Assassin's Creed game. Every archetype offers a unique challenge. Some will coordinate with their allies for special attacks, while others will use nearby objects to their advantage, including the bodies of fallen warriors. To face these attacks, you must find and exploit your opponent's weaknesses to gain the upper hand. Take the fight to your foes with a host of brutal new combat abilities. Snare them with the Viking harpoon. Pummel them with throwing axes. Incapacitate them with the new stun system to keep them at a distance, or finish them off. Dual wield any two weapons you wish to unleash a deadly combination of attacks. Customize your fighting style as you see fit, and become a legendary Viking warrior. All combinations of weapons are available to dual wield, including 2 shields. Not all situations call for violence. In this new land, a Viking must find a way to adapt. As Eivor is not welcome in England, you may need to outsmart your enemies, avoiding unwanted attention in towns and bustling cities. Use Eivor's hood and cloak to blend with crowds and slip past watchful eyes, an unseen hunter among the people. From capital cities and villages to the dense forests and rolling hills of England, exploration is vital to keeping yourself sharp. You must feed off the land if you hope to endure. Hunt and forage to replenish your health and fortify your equipment. Search pagan temples and Roman ruins for new activities and challenges to strengthen yourself and your settlement. The more you explore, the more of England's secrets you will reveal.
Ravens, show no mercy!
But as you push deeper into England, the enemy will push back. In a series of climactic moments, Assassin's Creed Valhalla will feature massive assaults in which you will lead Eivor's army into battle against heavily guarded Saxon fortresses.
Today, we will reclaim her. Today, we fight for your land. And tomorrow, we rebuild.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla will transport you to wondrous and haunted lands, inspired by Norse myths and England's pagan roots. It will challenge and surprise, with unforgettable characters, thrilling triumphs, and tragic losses, giving you the chance to live your own Viking saga.